Got it. All right. Looks like we are live. We're back, guys. This is our second week. So we're experts now. We're feeling good. This is Insurance Live, where we take complicated insurance talk and we turn it into easy to understand talk that your everyday person can understand. And then we relate it back. We are live. We're back, guys. Hold up. This is our second week. I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah, I can hear that. Got a little bit of an echo going on.
Yeah, that's off now. So then we give you actionable things that you can take to make sure that you are covered correctly and can build your better future. So we are back with Chase again. Chase, welcome.
What's up, guys and gals? How's everyone doing?
And as you know from last episode, which was a good one, Chase is a personal injury attorney. He can break down complicated legal things and make them very simple to understand. So we're happy to have Chase back. So I want to start off with a quick story, and that will lead us into our topic of today. So as you know, we're independent brokers. We work with a number of different carriers. This specific instance was with an insured who was insured with Progressive. Many times Progressive will automatically write a policy for us and then just assign it to our agency, and we become the agent of that person. So this person went to Progressive. He insured his 2020 Ford Mustang. He was 21, 22 years old. He had an awesome car. He was young. He thought he was living the life, and he was doing Grub Hub or some food delivery service. As he was in the middle of Grub Hub, he was in an accident, and he totaled his 2020 Ford Mustang, his brand new expensive car. Well, he never told Progressive he was driving for Grub Hub. He never told us he was driving for Grub Hub. He did not have the appropriate endorsement to drive for Grub Hub. And because he was at fault and he didn't have that coverage, guess what? He was out of luck. Progressive said, sorry, man, we are not paying for your now totaled 2020 Ford Mustang. So this kid had a huge loan on this 2020 Mustang, but he didn't have a 2020 Mustang anymore because it was totaled and no one was going to fix it.
So painful.
Horrible, bad situation. I felt horrible for the young kid. And then he had to go out and purchase another vehicle and get another loan just to continue to do what he was doing. So as you can guess, what we're talking about today is if you're driving for Uber, if you're renting your car out with Turo, if you're driving for Grub Hub, really, if you're doing any type of business with your vehicle, are you covered? That's what you need to know. And so we're going to bring Chase in. He's going to break it down for us. Chase, I don't know if there's any specific one you want to start on.
So let's start with like Uber Eats, Grub Hub,
okay.
And I'd throw Instacart into that as well.
Yes.
Just because those are a little bit different than like Uber and Lyft, and I'll talk about why.
Okay.
If you are driving for those food delivery services, you're not considered driving other people. You're just delivering food. And so in Arizona, there are specific statutes that require Uber, Lyft, Waymo, and all these people delivery companies to maintain automobile insurance, liability insurance in case of an accident. And so when they're driving, even if the Uber driver's policy has an exclusion or doesn't have the proper endorsement, you in the car or you hit by an Uber driver, you're going to be fine because the Uber insurance will apply to cover that. Okay. But that's again for us being hit. If you are the Uber driver, it will take care of the people that you may have injured, but it's not going to take care of your car. And so that's where you've got to make sure that you've got the proper endorsement. And so that's where it gets a little bit hairy. Now, going back to Grub Hub and those, because it's not covered under these statutes like Uber and Lyft, there isn't anything that requires these companies to maintain some sort of insurance coverage for you. Okay. And in fact, on Instacart, they in bold and large letters say, we do not provide auto insurance. It is on you. And they make it very clear that there is nothing. So if you're involved in an accident and your car gets damaged, you're likely going to have an exclusion. And that's going to keep it to where you are unable to get your car repaired. Or even worse, if you're at fault for the accident and the other person is injured, you may be on the hook for their injuries. And so I spent some time before we got started here looking up a policy for these different types of exclusions so you guys can read. When you get your insurance contract, this one that I reviewed is 40 pages long. And that's probably the last thing you're going to want to do is read through every single specific example of what am I not covered, what am I covered. But in this situation, I want to show you what is covered for, or not covered, I should say, for Instacart, Uber Eats, and those stuff. This part here, part 7, it says, this is an exclusion. This is a part that's specifically under the exclusion of property damage and the exclusion for using liability to pay for other people's injuries. It says, while maintaining or using a vehicle in connection with that insured's employment or engagement of any kind in a car business. Okay. Notice they make it very broad, car business. Okay. So it's going to include Instacart. It's going to include Uber Eats. It's going to include DoorDash, all of those. And so if you're driving and you get in an accident, that exclusion is probably on your policy. I'm going to say 99% sure that it's on your policy unless you've let your insurance company know. And so if you're in an accident while driving for one of these food delivery companies, if you're at fault, you're going to be on the hook for medical bills personally for the person that you hit, and you're going to be on the hook for the damage to their car and to your car. That is just going to put you in such a terrible place that, like the story you told, Michael, of your client. I mean, how awful would it be to have 2 loans, but only 1 car?
Exactly.
It would be such a pain.
And I think it's important to point out where you said, Chase, like in Instacart, it says it very bold and upfront, we do not provide car insurance. So a lot of people will look at that and be like, no big deal. I have car insurance. I'm covered. But no. We see here, this is the policy language. And I agree with you. I would say at least 99%, if not all of your normal auto insurance companies are going to have that exclusion.
The insurance companies have legal teams that are drafting these things. And, you know, when Uber and Lyft and Instacart and Uber Eats, when all of that was new and just first into it, there weren't these exclusions. And so for a little bit, since it was new, you could argue that there's not an exclusion. And so claims were probably being paid. But these contracts are developed over time after the insurance company sees so many different examples of claims that they start to add those things in. And so if you are driving for those companies, you have got to make sure, don't make any assumptions that you're going to have the coverage. Make sure your insurance company knows that you're driving for those. Because if you don't tell them, I can assure you it is not on your policy. You're going to have an exclusion and you may end up in a world of hurt because of it. So the other example we were talking about was with Turo or Uber. Those are 2 kind of car businesses. But Uber, like I said, is a little bit different because of the nature of taking people around like a taxi. There are Arizona statutes that require Uber and Lyft and Waymo to have insurance, both while somebody is in the process of going to pick up a passenger and while they're in the process of taking someone somewhere. Okay. But that insurance coverage only works for liability. That's only going to help people if they get injured in an accident. If your car is damaged, it's not going to step in and repair your car. It's not going to step in and repair the car of others. So on that same policy that I'd showed you, I found what it says here in regards to Uber and Turo. It says, this is, again, resulting from liability coverage. These are the exclusions. I'm taking screenshots of the exclusions. It says, for damage arising out of the ownership, maintenance, or use of a vehicle while it is rented to or leased to others by the insured. That's Turo. Okay. So if you're thinking, well, it's not Uber. I'm not driving people around, so I'm good. No, right there. They've had too many examples with Turo and other services that if you are renting it for money, then boom, you're toast. You're not going to have coverage. And then part 6, again, talking about for damages arising out of the ownership, maintenance, or use of the vehicle while it is being used to carry persons for a charge. Now notice carrying persons for a charge, again, specifically referencing Uber, Lyft, Waymo, because you'll see there's a few little exclusions to the exclusions. So saying that, if you're giving, if you guys carpool to work and you guys share on gas, that's different. Okay. And that's part A here is an example of that. Part B is if you volunteer. Michael and I used to volunteer still with the Welcome to America project. And that's a nonprofit organization. And if we're out doing deliveries or work for that, since it's a nonprofit and we're not doing it for business purposes, we're still going to have coverage. But those are two very slender situations that don't hardly ever arise. So if you're renting with Turo or you're driving with Uber, look at your exclusions, because I can almost guarantee you that that's going to be in there, and you're not going to have the coverage you need when you're involved in an accident.
And I think the important thing, at least the way that I see it and the way that I explain it to my insureds, is if you're exchanging money, that's where you're going to start running into those problems in those exclusions. So if you're getting money to transfer people, or if you're getting money to bring people food, or if someone is paying you money to take your car, that's where you run into those exclusions. And that's where you're probably not going to have coverage, at least not complete coverage like you think you have.
Exactly. And so it doesn't even matter if you're just doing it on the side, you do a couple of drives a day to just make a few extra bucks. It doesn't matter. If there's any kind of exchange of money like that, they're going to assume it's a business. They're going to assume that it's, and even if you're not under Uber, you're doing your own thing for some reason. No, it doesn't matter. They will find any way they can. And that's why they make it as broad as possible, such as using the language car business. They're gonna keep it broad so that they can put you under that umbrella and use that exclusion.
Got it. And I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, and we should. There's one very simple solution to all of this. I would say at this point, 75% of all insurance companies out there offer a simple endorsement that you can add on to your policy, whether you're doing any of these things. You add on the endorsement, usually it's like $20 a month, $30 a month, just depending on your policy. And with that, you suddenly have the coverage. It removes those exclusions and it gives you the coverage. And then you don't have to worry about being in a crummy situation like this.
So the question I have for you, Michael, is, because this would be more on your side of things, is I endorsement for Michael. I get my insurance through Michael. But a long time ago, before you were doing this, I would get a policy over on the phone, either on the phone or online. And so when you don't have someone you're talking to, you're just kind of given a contract, and you're not ever able really given a chance to say, hey, I drive for Uber, I drive for Instacart, whatever it is. What's the process that you do on the issuing side of, or what can people do to say, hey, this, I need to make sure I have this coverage?
100%. So, and I never like to, talk bad about getting insurance online. I know this is 2022. We want the most convenient, easiest, simplest way to get insurance. But we have found that. I mean, my example in the very beginning with that story, Progressive, they're a call center. They're there 24/7. They are never going to talk to that client again. It's not in their interest to get you the best coverage and maintain that lasting relationship with you. So it's very much a transactional, ask the bare minimum questions, get you insured, move on. We see this often because Progressive is obviously countrywide. We're limited to a few states. I see a lot of Progressive policies. Someone in back east will write a policy for someone here in Arizona. They don't realize that here in Arizona, everybody wants and needs full glass coverage because windshields break all the time. And so they write policies for us here in Arizona, and they never include that glass coverage just because they are not aware of the local conditions and your specific needs. And so with Heritage, we're all about education. We would rather lose a policy than to not insure somebody correctly. And so with our salespeople, as we get somebody new, we don't know them, we go through a series of questions and we really break it down and go into detail about your life, what you do, where you travel, the kids you have, how you transport those kids, any extra side jobs you have on the side, like Uber or Lyft or anything to that nature. So we really make sure that we ask you all the appropriate questions so that you can have the appropriate coverage.
And that's the biggest thing that I've learned too with the clients that I've had. And I have a couple right now that, and luckily for them, they weren't at fault for the accident. And so their car is getting repaired, but they were driving for Instacart. And then all of a sudden, when they're trying to get their car repaired, their insurance company says, no, you're not covered. Sorry. And so then we have to fight with the at-fault insurance company to finally get that going. And it's a pain because they can dispute liability. But my client says, well, I had no idea that there was no coverage. That was never even discussed with me. Because that's the problem when you don't have someone that can speak to you specifically to get you those questions answered and to make sure that you're covered in any situation.
Exactly.
Something that came to mind though that I get a lot of questions on too, if you don't mind me bringing up, Michael, is so we're talking about Uber, Lyft, Turo, Instacart, all these. Like what happens? What about coverage when you are driving the rental car? What if you rent a car on Turo? What if you rent a car from Enterprise? Things like that. Is that covered?
Yeah, this is good to talk about.
Yeah. So again, while I was reading that policy, I found the specific provision that focuses on that. And Michael will probably have mentioned to those of you who watch this or know it, that if you buy a new car and then you get in an accident like 24 hours later or 48 hours later, and you just haven't had time to put it under the policy, there is a grace period. And that's in the policy language as well. Mm-hmm. But part of that policy language also includes language about if you're driving a rental car or if you're driving somebody else's car. If I loan my car to Michael, is he still going to be covered for doing that? And so the language here that I found that was good to reference was talking about insured is the person who has the insurance policy. So if we're talking about Michael, you're the insured, Michael. So who are the insured? It's you and any resident relatives. Okay. And then that when it goes down to part B, the maintenance or use of a non-owned car. So you're still covered even when you're driving a non-owned car, meaning I lend you my car or you rent a car from Turo, Enterprise, mm-hmm. or the next part says a temporary substitute car. If you drop your car off at the dealer and they give you a loaner car until the repairs are done, you're covered. So you don't have to buy the additional insurance that they may give you. It's not necessarily a bad thing to get, but you want to make sure in these situations, because in this policy, every policy is going to be different. This one allows for it. This one allows for you to do it, so long as it falls under this criteria. And so that's a question I get a lot, and it's hard to say yes, you're going to be covered and tell everybody that if you don't read the policy. But most of the policies that I see are like that you, the person who buys the insurance, and your spouse or any kids that live with you, if they're driving a rental car, they're driving a borrowed car, yes, the coverage is going to extend to them.
Awesome. And two things. I want to say something, then I have a question for you, Chase. So You said something important. Check your policy, because not all policies are the same. In today's world, we get blasted with all these commercials, 15 minutes, save you 15%, customize your own coverage, you only pay for what you need, all that, which makes us believe that insurance is a commodity, and it's the same. So the only thing you have to think about when going and purchasing an insurance policy is which is the cheapest. And that can't be farther from the truth. Every single policy is different. Every single policy offers additional endorsements, has different exclusions, things to that nature that you really have to pay attention to. You probably aren't going to read all of these because you're not as smart as Chase. You can't break them down. But
no, you just don't want to waste your time doing that. Let's be honest. Let's say that.
That too. There you go. So if you get that's again going back to just buying online where you don't talk to anybody versus talking to an agent. It's important that you talk with a local broker, tell them your whole life story essentially, and then let them tell you, oh, this policy is going to be the best for you, or this policy is going to be the best for you. That's something that, like, honestly, I wish I could just shout it from the rooftops and let everybody know insurance is not a commodity. Everything's different. But I'm fighting with all these multi-billion-dollar companies that shout it from the TV every single day and radio and social media, trying to persuade you that insurance is a commodity and all that matters is price.
Right. And that's where you and I, despite you being the person who issues the insurance and I'm the bad personal injury lawyer who ends up using it, you and I are on the same page in that I want insurance agents like you who explain and seek out all of the different issues that a client may have, because so many times I get clients in that have just been in an accident, and then we find these exclusions. And I didn't know about this. It's too late. You can't go back and change. You can change the policy for moving forward, but the accident that you were just involved in, it's the coverage you had at the moment of that accident. So even if you get in the accident and you call Progressive or whoever at the scene of the accident and you ask for coverage to be added, they will go down to the very minute and see the police report saw that the accident or has the accident listed at 10 a.m. and you looks like called Progressive at 10:15 a.m. They will go to that detail because I've seen it, because people have tried to do it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just listen to Michael, listen to your insurance agent, and just let them tell you what they need. It's not a sales job of just trying to get more premiums. I see the back end of it. And then I just want to say, just listen to your insurance agent. I promise you, you won't regret it. Yeah, you may never use the policy, but when you do, man, you're going to be so happy you have it.
Everyone's life is easier. And what you said there kind of leads me into the question when you talked about how they'll go down to the very minute and investigate. So I know, and I know this because I deal with clients all the time. I've been doing this for a long time. I know there's people who are saying, how do they know I'm driving for Uber? How do they know I'm going to deliver for Instacart? Can't I just say, no, I wasn't doing that? And then I don't have to get this endorsement. And then boom, everything's covered. Does that work?
So
that's my question to you.
Yeah, I mean, again, one, I'll be bold enough and just say that's insurance fraud. Okay. And so if you say that and you get caught, there are criminal penalties. Every time I get a letter from the insurance companies while I'm making a claim, there's a statement at the bottom that is required by Arizona law that says insurance fraud is a felony, blah, 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 and listing all this out on every single letter that comes from them because they take it very serious. Mm-hmm. And so if you're driving for Uber and then you call to report the accident or somebody else calls to report it, the car that you hit calls to report it, they may say that you were driving for Uber, or if they don't, because they didn't know and you don't tell them, well, maybe the police report does. Maybe the police report is going to say you were driving for Uber. The police will make note of that. Or if there are witnesses, there will be notes of that in police reports. Insurance companies will go to great lengths to figure out what was going on. And they're tipped off to things like, well, this guy was driving at 2 a.m. and had a passenger in the car that was seated in the back that's not a relative of theirs that they don't live with. Right. Something's off here. Yep. They notice those things. Okay. And because on a police report, if you look at it, the police will indicate where you are seated in the car when the accident happens. Okay. And so if they're saying, well, if somebody's in the back seat, it's 12 o'clock and you were going to the airport, and what's your relation to this person? Mm-hmm. What are you going to say at that point? And so again, just take care of the coverage, have the coverage, so you don't have to worry about, getting yourself trapped in a lie. If you don't have the coverage, it sucks. I'm sorry, but you're going to be so much worse off if you try and wriggle your way around, circumvent the different policy language, because if you get caught, it's going to suck. Insurance companies will pursue fraud claims. And so you do not want to get caught trying to go around the language and the policy like that. Got it. So bottom line, just be honest, set yourself up for protection in the beginning, then you don't have to worry about it. Exactly. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but you'll sleep better at night. There you go. So bottom line, Turo, if you're renting your car out, Uber, Instacart, whatever, really you can get coverage for those things, but it doesn't come automatically. So that's where you need to go and talk to your insurance broker, let them know what you're doing. If the current company you're not with, or the current company you're with doesn't offer that endorsement, like I said, 75% of companies out there now offer endorsements like that, so they can find a company for you that will give you the coverage that you need. Yeah, that's the other thing I meant to say. We're talking about how you're not covered. Here's the policy language. But yeah, it's as simple as just telling your insurance company, hey, I drive for Uber. And if they say, oh, sorry, we don't cover for that, then you need to call Michael and find a different policy or find a different company. But that's all you have to do. And that little bit of time, and that was interesting. Have you seen the prices? What, it's $20, $30 more? Yeah, that's really it, 20 to 30 on average a month. So, I mean, that's like 1 or 2 extra Uber rides. That's 1 extra Instacart or DoorDash delivery or something like that. Believe me, it's going to be so worth it. And that's just the cost of doing business. We've got to have insurance when we do business, and you'll be glad you did. And circumventing that $20 a month, $30 a month to not have that endorsement will come back and cost you 20 grand like it did your client with the Mustang. Exactly. Yep. All right. Well, there you go. There you have it. You'll find a common theme as we go through all this is just talk to your insurance agent, tell them the full truth, and they can find you coverage. Really, like in the insurance world, we can cover anything. It's just a matter of finding out what needs to be covered, and then we can go and find the right policy for you to be covered. But you have to be upfront, you have to be honest, and you have to let your insurance broker know. And don't wait until you're in my office saying you were involved in an accident, and then we're figuring out, oh, wait, this isn't covered, this isn't covered, this isn't covered. Look through your policy. If you've never read your policy language, ask for it. They will send it to you. You can get it off of your portal online, look at it. And if you have questions on the policy, I nerd out about this stuff, man. Every word makes a difference. And so I like to read these things and really analyze what's going to be covered. We can analyze those things. Michael can analyze those things. Let's just don't make assumptions, because ultimately your assumption is likely going to be wrong, because the insurance company is going to find a way to not cover you for something that they're not aware of. And so if you make them aware of it, then fine, then they'll take care of you, then they'll cover it. But if you don't, then that's what these exclusions are for.
Absolutely. Love it. One question before we leave. I see your soccer jerseys there. Last week you said they started on Saturday. Did your team win?
Yes, they did. Go Arsenal. 2-0. So next game is Saturday.
Awesome.
So
okay. Well,
come on, everyone can come over to my office and we can watch it together. That's where I'll be.
There you go. You want to watch them play and talk about policy language? Chase's office is the place.
Dude, that will be two things I nerd out about: insurance coverage and soccer. Man, you guys, I won't stop talking.
Love it. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and Chase, thank you as well for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Giving us your expertise, and we will see you all in the next live video.